Hello and welcome into the second video for lesson 2 for Precalculus 2. This is the sample problems for all the different reciprocal identities, Pythagorean identities, trig functions. That's going to be all these problems here. So let me share my document camera. All right, so the first thing we want is to find the exact value. So the first one, I want to know sine of 5 pi over 6. So this is really asking me what? What's the y value? Because sine is equal to the y value of 5 pi over 6. So if I go to my unit circle, find 5 pi over 6. So over here in quadrant 2, the y value is positive half. So this guy is equal to 1/2. Second one, what's cosine of 5 pi over 6? So this wants to know the x value for 5 pi over 6, which is negative root 3 over 2. Now, notice this says what's the exact value. If you put this on your calculator and get some decimal answer and try to enter it, let's say if you guys are in my class and you're using WebAssign and you try to put a decimal answer in, it's going to mark it wrong. Because this is the exact value. Your calculator answer is an approximate value. It's not exact. How about tangent of 5 pi over 6? All right, well, 5 pi over 6, the reference number is pi over 6. So if I look at my unit circle, pi over 6, that tangent value is root 3 over 3. And in quadrant 2, all students take calculus. That means tangent is negative in quadrant 2. So my answer for this would be negative root 3 over 3. That's one way you could do it. The other way would be what? Well, if I know sine and if I know cosine, I can just divide them to get tangent. That's extra calculations you don't really need to worry about. And then lastly, how about cosecant of 5 pi over 6? So on our unit circle, we don't have secant, cosecant, cotangent. But I have what? I have sine, cosine, and tangent. Well, cosecant is similar to sine. It's really what? It's 1 over sine. So if I figure out sine of 5 pi over 6, and then take the reciprocal, flip it, that will give me cosecant. So we already found up here in part 1 that sine of 5 pi over 6 is a half. So therefore, if I take the reciprocal, if I flip this thing, it becomes 2 over 1. So therefore, cosecant of 5 pi over 6 is just 2. And that's how you're going to calculate the values for cosecant, secant, or cotangent. Find our base one, sine, cosine, tangent, and then take the reciprocal. All right, next, we want to find the sine, and this is SIGN, not SINE. So find the sine of the expression in the given quadrant. So the first one, I have sine of t times cosine of t in quadrant 2. So again, this is where you're going to use the all students take calculus little grid. if you don't know it already by heart. So sine of t in quadrant 2 is positive. Cosine in quadrant 2 is negative. So positive times negative is negative. So this answer would be a negative answer if I took sine of t and cosine t and they were both in quadrant 2. How about tangent of t over sine of t in quadrant 3? All right, so tangent of t in quadrant 3, all students take t, that's positive. Sine in quadrant 3 is negative, so positive divided by negative means this is also a negative answer. And then lastly, if I have secant of t over tangent of t in quadrant 4. All right, so in quadrant 4, secant is like cosine. In quadrant 4, cosine is positive, so this is positive number in the numerator. Tangent in quadrant 4 is negative, so again, I have positive divided by negative is negative. So all three of these happen to be negative. That's just how it worked out. It's not always going to be negative. It just so happened with these examples that they were all negative. All right, so that's those problems using our all students take calculus to figure out pluses and minuses. Now let's kind of go the other way. So determine where t lies based on the given information. So the first one, if I'm told sine of t is greater than 0 and cosine of t is also greater than 0. All right, so which quadrants is sine positive? Well, it's positive in quadrant 1 and it's positive in quadrant 2. How about cosine? It's positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. And so now I just have to match this up. Which quadrant is in both of them? And it's what? Quadrant 1. So quadrant 1 is the only quadrant where sine is positive and cosine is positive. So that's kind of working our way backwards from the previous problems we did. What if I have tangent of t is less than 0? Cosecant of t is greater than 0. So again, I would hit pause, try to work it out, see if you get the right answer. Come on back, hit double time so it speeds through the video, and see if you get it right. So tangent is less than 0, meaning tangent is negative. That's quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. And then cosecant, well, this is like sine. So sine is greater than 0 in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. So if that's the case, I have to be in what? I have to be in quadrant 2 if tangent is negative and cosecant is positive. It's the only quadrant that happens at the same time. All right, then lastly, so find the trig values if tangent of t is equal to -3/4 and sine of t is greater than 0. So I want to know, what is sine of t? What is cosine of t? We're given tangent of t is -3/4. What's cosecant of t? What's secant of t? What's cotangent of t? So the easiest one to do is what? Cotangent. Why? because cotangent is just the reciprocal of tangent. So if tangent is negative 3/4, cotangent is negative 4/3. I just flip it. But for the rest of these, man, I'm stuck. I'm not sure what I should be doing here. Oh, wait a minute. George told me if I'm stuck, that's a great thing because I can do what? I can use the Holy Grail. I can use Pythagorean identities, and that'll usually get me out of trouble. And so I can't use the Holy Grail here, but I'm given what? I'm given tangent. So I can actually, well, let me pause for a second. So a common mistake that is made here is people say, oh, tangent is sine over cosine. But I know sine is positive, so that must mean sine is equal to 3 and cosine is equal to negative 4. And so you plug that in, and then you hit submit on WebAssign, and it tells you it's wrong. Why? Well, look at the unit circle. Sine goes between -1 and 1. That's the biggest and smallest it ever is. Same with cosine. The biggest the cosine ever is 1. The smallest is -1. So it's not possible for sine to be 3 and cosine to be -4. So this means what? This means the ratio of sine to cosine is 3/4. It does not mean that sine is 3 and cosine is 4, -4, whatever. So that's when, okay, I'm stuck. So what do I do? All right, use Pythagorean identities. So we have what? We have tangent squared plus 1 is secant squared of t. So this will give me secant. And then once I have secant, I can figure out what? Well, I can figure out cosine because it's just the reciprocal. And then once I have cosine, I can do what? I can use the Holy Grail and calculate sine. And once I have sine, I can take the reciprocal for cosecant. So I just have to do some fraction math here. So tangent is -3/4. So this is -3/4 squared plus 1 is secant squared t. So this is 9 over 16 plus 16 over 16 is secant squared t. So 25 over 16 is secant squared t. So to get secant, I do what? Take the square root. And this is where everyone will get it probably wrong because they take the square root and they're like, oh, 5 over 4 is secant. But when we take the square root, we have to do what? Plus or minus. So secant is either plus 5/4 or minus 5/4. So how do I know which one it is? Well, we go back to here, just like we did with the last problem. I need to figure out what quadrant I'm starting this whole thing in, so if I know if the values are plus or minus. So tangent is negative in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4, and sine is positive in quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. Therefore, I am in quadrant 2. And in quadrant 2, I know sine is positive. I know cosine is negative. So therefore, cosecant is positive, and secant would be negative. So I want to use -5 over 4 as my value for secant. And now that I know secant, I can figure out cosine because it's just the reciprocal. So instead of -5 over 4, it becomes -4 over 5 cosine. And now that I have cosine, I can figure out sine using the Holy Grail. So sine squared t plus cosine squared t is 1. So sine squared plus -4/5 squared is 1. So sine squared of t plus 16 over 25 is 1, which is 25 over 25. So subtract 16 over 25 from both sides. Let me move up here. Tells me that sine squared of t is 9 over 25. And now take the square root. Sine of t is plus or minus the square root of 9 over 25, which is plus or minus the square, which is plus or minus 3/5. But I already determined sine gets the positive value, so this one is 3/5. And then to figure out cosine, just take the reciprocal, so 5/3. And that's how you would figure out the remaining trig values. So later on in the semester, we're going to learn a little shortcut version, but for now, this is how you do these. You need to use the Pythagorean identities, find out which identity is going to give you one of the missing trig functions, take the reciprocal, use another identity, take the reciprocal, and that gets you all the answers you're going to need. So that's it. That's what you need to do, need to know out of lesson 2. So good luck on the problems, and we'll see you guys in lesson 3.